Alright, y'all. Um, I wanted to yap about video game graphics for this video because I've been thinking about it. And not just video game graphics, but just like general performance and all that, and like how that affects future consoles and graphics cards and all that shit. So, yeah, I've been thinking, I'm just like, do graphics need to get much better? Obviously, things can always look better, frame rates can always be higher, but when it comes to the next generation of video games, the new PlayStation, the new Xbox, the new GPUs coming out, they're all going to be extremely expensive because of just the economy and AI taking up so many resources and all that bullshit. It's gonna be expensive, and most likely a PlayStation 6 would cost at least $1,000. And I'm just wondering, what could a PlayStation 6 provide that would make anybody with a PS5 be willing to spend $1,000 on? Like, how much better are the graphics possibly gonna be compared to the PlayStation 5 that's gonna convince someone to spend that much money for a new console? Especially if someone has, a lot of physical games where they won't even be able to play those games on their PlayStation 6 because they're no longer gonna have, disk drives. So it's like, how do you like graphics just like it's not the same anymore, Like, for example, you compare the PlayStation 1 generation to the PlayStation 2 generation, the graphic jump is insane. The graphic jump is insane. And the graphic jumps, they slowly start to become less and less insane throughout the years. PS2 to PS3, there's a big jump, but not as big as PS1 and 2. And then PS3 to PS4, there's another jump, but it's even smaller. PS4 to PS5, there's a tiny jump. It's no longer really about the graphics and more about the frame rates. But the thing is, the PlayStation 5 can run games, like most games, at 60 FPS with good graphics. So the PS6 would just, what is it gonna do? Run games at 120? I don't think that's enough for people to wanna pay $1,000 for, especially since the PS5 can run some games at 122 even right now. So I just don't know, how much better are you gonna make the graphics? A game that comes to mind is Metal Gear Solid Delta, or pretty much aka the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. That game's graphics they look beautiful, and it runs almost fully at 60 FPS on a base PS5. It does drop to like 40ish frames every now and then, but you can make it hit 60 most of the time on a base PS5. How much better can you make those graphics for like a PlayStation 6 game? Like, is there really a purpose for that? Like, I don't even think we need new consoles and all that. And I think that's where like a lot of developers, and especially hardware developers, are kind of panicking, because it's like, for literally the longest time ever, since the damn NES, it's always been, you buy a console, and a couple years later, like 5 to maybe like 7 years later, a new console comes out, better graphics. There's games that can only come out for that console that just would not be possible in the previous console, so you have to upgrade. It made sense. But like that jump is no longer becoming like as drastic anymore, and like games can totally still run to the PS5 to this day, and probably at least for the next like 5 years we could still have games running damn near at 60 on the PS5. So like, how do you convince someone to buy an upgrade? There's not really a need for an upgrade. So developers are gonna like now you just gotta focus on the software and actually make, creative games instead of just focusing on graphics, because that's not really gonna be that much of a selling point, especially since hardware is just getting more expensive. So it just would not be, profitable to try to go even further beyond what they're already selling to us. But yeah, a hypothetical PlayStation 6 game could totally run perfectly fine on a PS5. Like, there's just no way that they would make such a drastic jump in graphics to the point where the PS5 wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, there's not that much room for improvement anymore, at least in my opinion. I don't know, maybe they'll shock us somehow, but graphics they already look super realistic. I just don't know how you would make it much better. And another thing that is like a big thing to consider when it comes to, you know, games not needing to be on a new system is pretty much there's no more like creative limitations really. Like for example, like I said, the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, there was just so many things you just couldn't do if you wanted to keep making your games for PlayStation 1. Like, you had to move over to PS2 because there was just so much limitations, and it's been like that for a while. But let's say you're a video game developer and, you know, PlayStation 6 is out, but nobody's buying it because it's so expensive and nobody can afford it, so you would make more money selling your game on PS5. Is it really like, oh no, I'm limited to only making a game for PS5? Like, it's like I have so many creative limitations. Like, no, you don't really. Like, I don't know like how ambitious you would want your game to be, but the game is gonna run perfectly fine on the system. I don't see how, like, there's no longer that need. There's no longer so much creative limitations on the technology that is still the current generation. Like, it doesn't feel like people are limited yet. At least not yet. Maybe give it another 10 years and then we'll be like, okay, technology has advanced to the point where, yeah, a new console would be able to bring so many new opportunities when it comes to graphics and just the way a game could look. But right now, it doesn't feel too limiting on what we have right now. It doesn't feel very limited to me. But yeah, this might be the first generation where people decide not to upgrade their hardware. Not because, you know, they can't financially, even though that's also going to be a factor since shit's going to be so expensive, but because it's just not going to be worth it. Like, it's just, there's no way it's going to be worth it with how expensive it would be and how little of an upgrade it would bring to them, you know? Most people would keep their PlayStation 5s because why does it need to, you know, like, there's no need for a jump yet. And then even on the PC side, like, if you have, let's say you have a 5090 right now, why would you need a new graphics card? Like, what game is making it so you can't run the game perfectly fine on a 5090? I just don't, like, what game is there? So, like, if Nvidia released, you know, a 6090, would it, like, why would people need that? Especially with how expensive it would be to you know, get something like that. I think the focus should be on dropping the prices on the current technology we have now for the next couple years. Focus on getting those things to become more affordable instead of trying to push forward where, you know, at least with the way things are right now, it's not very realistic to try to keep pushing forward and at least make gaming, you know, affordable. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I can yap about when it comes to video game graphics without me going on side tangents that are no longer about video game graphics anymore, really. You know, I've been just thinking, I've been noticing, I'm like, yeah, the jumps in graphics have not been that drastic anymore, and we're kind of reaching like a stalemate, you know, or a little plateau. I don't know how they would make graphics any better, and I wouldn't like know if we even need to make graphics any better. But yeah, that's about it. Peace out.